Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Over the last couple of weeks, I have been kind of banging the table for former Arizona State wide receiver Elijah Badger as really being one of the top wide receivers available in the transfer portal. And as we sit right now, probably the best wide receiver in the portal. And it sounds like Billy Napier and the Florida Gators are getting ready to make a run at Elijah Badger. And when this type of thing happens, I always go to Twitter, go to the message boards, really get a feel for what the Florida Gator fans are thinking about this edition. I was kind of surprised to see, a lot of Florida Gator fans kind of on the fence about Elijah Badger. I want to make my case for why the Florida Gators should certainly be going after Elijah Badger for a couple of different reasons. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, the Florida Gator fans, whether we're talking the portal, the high school recruiting trail. You guys continue to show a ton of love, a ton of support to the boys. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Let's chop it up in the comment section. I always love the input. I learn a ton from you guys. So let me know how you guys are feeling in the comment section. And let's get into Elijah Badger, and let's talk about the player Elijah Badger in just a little bit. I want to focus on why Billy Napier should be going for a guy like Elijah Badger. And I think, quite frankly, it allows this team to be much better heading into 2024. Now, the question marks that you have, one, you have kind of a numbers crunch in terms of the scholarship allotment. And more importantly, I think the back injury was kind of a holdup for a lot of Florida Gator fans. In my mind, Elijah Badger's worth the risk. And I think this 2024 season is so important for Billy Napier in his tenure at Gainesville. You take a look at this program and kind of the feel around this program. We've been pretty vocal that outside of the fall months, we feel really good about where this program is coming. I think the talent acquisition is in a really good spot. I think this roster has a lot of young talent that is going to continue to develop over the next couple of years. If there's one thing that we don't feel good about, it's really what you've seen during the falls. And obviously that is the most important thing in terms of evaluating a head coach. And I look at 2024 being, such a massive year for this Florida Gators program to turn the corner. And I think Billy Napier, even though Elijah Badger would be a one-year rental, he's going to play for the Florida Gators, go to the NFL draft. I think having a successful season, I don't define success as winning an SEC title, winning a national championship. I don't think many Florida Gator fans do. But you look at winning 6, 7, 8 games, which I think is certainly a possibility for this Florida Gators program. That, in my mind, needs to be the priority, because you look at having a successful season in 2024 where if you're winning 6, 7, 8 games, you're having a lot of good wins because this schedule is brutal for the Florida Gators. I'm more concerned with where's the momentum going heading into 2025? Because I think a lot of Florida Gator fans feel the same way. 2024, you want to build. You want to start turning the corner. You want to start really establishing that winning culture, winning those big moments, winning those big games. And then you look at 2025, 2026, those are the seasons that if you're a Florida Gator fan, you're saying, hey, we can kind of get back to where we belong as a program. DJ Lagway, Eugene Wilson, Andy G, and a ton of young talent that they've recruited the last couple cycles. So if from that mere fact, yes, you have concerns about the scholarship number, you can make that work. I think Elijah Badger is way too good of a player to be worried about scholarship numbers. And I think number two, yes, you have the back injury that you're worrying about. In my mind, you take a big swing. You look at Elijah Badger, and this is probably a nice segue into talking about Elijah Badger, what he brings to this Florida Gators wide receiver room. This is a guy that is a proven contributor at the Power 5 level, and quite frankly, is probably going to the NFL draft had he not been at Arizona State the last 2 years, where that offense and that team in general was just absolutely brutal. And I think you stick him on a lot of other Power 5 programs with capable quarterback play, he's probably receiving for over 1,000 yards. And you look at the last 2 years, he's been very productive, right? Over 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns. You look at what he does as a player, there's so many different ways you can get him involved. And it's hard to find wide receivers that can excel in a multitude of ways, right? Elijah Badger is a guy that can work vertically, stack cornerbacks, but I think his best asset is what he can do in terms of creating separation and working after the catch. You look at some of the numbers, over 700 receiving yards in 2023, 550 of them came after the catch. He forced 26 missed tackles in 2023. You look at Billy Napier, how he wants this offense to look. It is predicated in yards after the catch. You look at why Eugene Wilson has found so much success in that Florida Gators offense in 2023. Billy Napier did a great job getting him in space and allowing him to make people miss at the second level. I think Elijah Badger, kind of fits right in to that Billy Napier offense in terms of what they want to do. And you take a look at kind of how this depth chart in this wide receiver room is constructed. There's a lot of young talent. I think that's where a lot of the talent on this program resides, right? You look at Eugene Wilson, again, one of the best players, not only in the SEC, but in the country. You have guys like Andy Jean and Aiden Mizell, who, we've been banging the table for. I think they certainly take a step in 2024. I think you feel good about what you saw from Aiden Mizell in the spring game. That being said, I think you're bringing a guy like Elijah Badger, and I think he allows for those young guys to continue to take their time in terms of that development standpoint. And you look at a guy in Elijah Badger and say, you look at those three wide receivers that will probably be starting for the Florida Gators. Eugene Wilson, known commodity. He's young, but he's a stud. You look at Tremere Dike, probably not going to be a top 100 NFL draft pick, but a guy that can work vertically down the field, has that rapport with Graham Mertz. And then you have Elijah Badger, a guy that, again, I think can be an 1,000-yard catcher at the Power 5 level, giving the right offense. And I think he's a perfect fit in this Florida Gators offense. So you have three guys that, in my mind, are proven commodities, two of them with a ton of experience with Tremere Dike and Elijah Badger. And then what does your depth look like in the wide receiver room? Ton of young talent, right? Aiden Mizell, Andy Jean, a guy like Tank Hawkins, who is one of the fastest players in college football as a true freshman. How I look at it is that's exactly how you want a wide receiver room to look. And if a guy like Andy Jean or Aiden Mizell beat out a guy like Tremere Dike for a starting role, then you just feel good about some of those young wide receivers, but you're not going into the 2024 season having to rely on some young talent that are not necessarily proven at the Power 5 level yet. And so I look at Elijah Badger and say, I get it. There are some things why you would want to push back on the addition, right? The back injury is concerning. You look at the scholarship number. In my mind, I think 2024 is such a massive season for the Florida Gators. And again, it's not because we're expecting them to win an SEC title, win a national championship. If you win 6, 7, 8 games, you build some of the momentum. You kind of establish that winning culture. Really just the last missing piece for Billy Napier during his time at Florida. You're going into 2025, in my mind, with one of the better rosters in the SEC, with a culture that you kind of believe you can start winning some of those games. Elijah Badger is not going to take this team from a 6-win team to a SEC national championship contender. I think we all know that. But the 1-year rental, if you can take this team from a 5-6 win team to a 7-8 win team, I think that means a ton heading into 2025. You look at how you want to build programs. I look at 2024 in terms of how Billy Napier wants to build this program and say, this is a massive year for this program. Because again, if you don't put it together on fall and the Saturdays, a lot of Florida Gator fans are going to be starting to put Billy Napier on the hot seat. And quite frankly, as a Billy Napier believer, I wouldn't argue with you guys, because if you see another season where you're underperforming on Saturdays, that's how head coaches get evaluated. You're not going to be a head coach very long if you continue to underperform. I think 2024 is a massive year. I think Elijah Badger can really add, again, not an SEC champ. He's not a guy that you're immediately an SEC contender for a championship, but he's a guy that can win you some football games in the fall. And I think that would be a massive addition for the Florida Gators. And I think you feel really good about what the wide receiver room looks like for the Gators. We'll see how it plays out. It's worth noting you got the scheduled visit for May 14th to the 16th. He took visits to Arizona and Washington, left those visits with no commitments. You're a Florida Gator fan. You're sitting there and saying, hey, we think that we have a good shot at a guy like Elijah Badger. Really excited to see how it plays out. We'll keep you guys updated. If he does commit, I think we're going to do just a full-on film review because I am a massive fan of Elijah Badger. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. And as always, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.